From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, my name's Parmveer Kang, and these are your 3 o'clock news updates. A 37-year-old man has been fatally stabbed in Vancouver. Police say the victim was attacked just before 10 last night and died a short while later in hospital. A witness called police to report the stabbing near Renfrew and Gravely Streets, but the suspect has not been located. Constable Tanya Vicentin says investigators are uncertain whether the attack was random or targeted and are advising residents of the area to be extra vigilant. This marks the 10th homicide this year in Vancouver. Surrey police are investigating a shooting that has all the signs of a targeted attack. Officers were called to the Wally neighborhood late yesterday afternoon to find a 25-year-old man with gunshot wounds. The victim remains in hospital in stable condition. Police responded early this morning to a report of a stolen vehicle on fire just blocks away from the earlier shooting, although they say they're still working on establishing a link between the two incidents. Nanaimo RCMP say that no one was hurt when a house was sprayed with bullets last night. Police say several neighbors called 911 reporting that multiple shots had been fired. Despite a police dog being brought in, they couldn't track any suspects. Investigators found numerous bullet casings around the home in the 700 block of Nickel Street. They say the shooting was likely a targeted hit. On to some lighter news now, as the BC Federation of Labour says it's standing with the 55,000 QP members in Ontario who are set to strike tomorrow. This message of solidarity comes despite Ontario government's legislation that could make the walkout illegal. A statement from the BC Federation of Labour urges Ontario's government to withdraw the legislation, calling Bill 28A dangerous and wildly irresponsible measure. Ontario education workers also have the support of the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, which says its 8,000 education workers will join the QP job action in solidarity. Ontario's education minister says the government has no choice but to impose the act, despite QP already saying they will strike regardless of the bill. Homeless shelters across Vancouver are releasing donation wish lists for the winter season. Here's Yusuf Habib with the story.
With winter just around the corner, Vancouver's homeless population is relying heavily on shelters and places of refuge for a warm night's sleep. Among other preparations, homeless shelters are setting up warm spaces where people can come in and escape the cold. George Flett, manager of the First United Church Shelter, said that his shelter is depending on donations of clothes and blankets now more than ever.
Anything to cover themselves from the wetness that usually accompanies Vancouver winter season. But like once it gets colder, people want to come inside. That's the main gist of being homeless in Vancouver.
2,095 people in Vancouver are reported to be homeless, but experts say the actual numbers are much higher. Yusuf Habib, 1680, The Crow.
We are now joined by Yusuf Habib out in the field. Yusuf, how are the homeless impacted the most by this weather?
Well, Parm, I'm standing outside right now. It's cold, it's rainy, it's miserable. So imagine being out here all the time. It's horrible, and being wet constantly just leads to many infections. So a lot of people out on the streets aren't getting the medical attention that they need as well.
And what's the best way for us to help these people out?
Well, giving away any extra clothes or blankets you may have. It's really important that people don't stay wet for too long. Just until proper housing is sorted out for them.
Thank you, Yusuf. Today, the provincial government has announced changes to assist bodies who represent long-term care occupants and relatives. Jasper Chu has the story.
The provincial government claims that this new measure aims to assist family and resident councils in long-term care homes. They explain it will increase representation for long-term care residents and their families by strengthening partnerships, collaboration, and communication between the councils, health authorities, Ministry of Health, and care home operators. The provincial government adds that the measures will ensure greater access to information so that occupants can have frank conversations about their experiences. Among the changes, measures include mandating care home operators meet with councils twice a year or more to promote interests of persons in care, provide administrative support of a pre-approved employee for a meeting of the council, provide rooms for council meetings up to 3 hours with respective equipment needed, and respond in writing to all recommendations put forward by a council. This is Jasper Chu for 1680 The Crow.
On to sports now, as Kevin Bieksa makes his return to Vancouver tonight. The legendary Canuck defender has signed a one-day contract with the Canucks to officially retire from the NHL as a member of Vancouver's NHL team. Among all-time Canucks defensemen, Bieksa ranks top 10 in games played, goals, assists, and points. Bieksa was drafted by the Canucks in 2001 and was with the team up until 2015 when he was traded to the Anaheim Ducks. In fact, the Canucks will be taking on the Ducks tonight, which are the only teams that Bieksa had ever played for. Both teams are looking to turn their seasons around as they have 6 and 7 points respectively through 10 games. Canadian football's biggest game of the year is coming back to Vancouver. Reporter Jacob New has the full story.
The BC Lions, who are about to host their first home playoff game in 6 years, made news for another future date down the line. BC Place will host the 111th Grey Cup in November 2024. It will be the city's 17th time hosting the championship game and the 10th time the game will be played at the downtown stadium. It's another win for the Lions, who have been on the climb since new owner Amar Doman took over the franchise last year. It will also be another high-level sports event for Vancouver, which will host World Cup games 2 years after the Grey Cup. This year's CFL title game will be played in Regina, Saskatchewan in just over 2 weeks. Hamilton, Ontario will play host in 2023. Jacob New, 1680, The Crow.
We are now joined by reporter Jacob New. Jacob, how has the reaction been to the announcement this morning?
Well, Parmveer, I can say it's been very positive. The conference to announce the Lions hosting in 2024 had both city officials and provincial officials in attendance and speaking. They're very excited at the prospect of hosting the event. There's a huge potential for a tourism boost with the Grey Cup here in the Lower Mainland. It will have been 10 years that we have last hosted the game when 2024 rolls around, and fans are excited. Vancouver's name is back on the schedule.
And the Lions' last Grey Cup win was in Vancouver in 2011. Are there any possibilities of a homecoming in 2024?
It's tough to say, but there is no doubt the team is on the rise. First playoff appearance since 2018 this year. They're hosting the West semifinals against the Calgary Stampeders in 3 days' time, and Canadian quarterback Nathan Rourke will be starting for the Leos. He was on fire for the first half of the season before getting injured, and they also had 4 players named West Division All-Stars this year, including Dominic Grimes and Lou Purifoy. There's quite some time before 2024, but never say never. Parm?
Thank you, Jacob. Moving on to more American sports news, the Houston Astros and Philadelphia Phillies are all tied up at 2 games heading into tonight's Game 5 at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. For the Astros, Justin Verlander will get the start tonight while Noah Syndergaard gets the start for Philadelphia. The Astros are looking to build on a 5-0 victory in last night's Game 4. The Astros had 5 different players all score a run, while the Phillies had a disappointing performance that saw them have no hits all game. Game 6 will be taking place on Saturday in Houston, with a Game 7 on Sunday if it's needed. Canadian defender Scott Kennedy is unfortunately going to miss the World Cup due to a freak injury. The 25-year-old defender fell awkwardly onto his shoulder while playing with German club SSV Jean Regensburg on Saturday. Kennedy won't be able to play again until the new year. Canada's first game in the group stage will be against Belgium on November 23rd, and this will be the first World Cup appearance for the Canadian men in 36 years. Moving over to the NFL now, as Week 9 of the NFL season kicks off tonight as the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles visit the struggling Houston Texans. The Eagles are the only undefeated team remaining in the league, while the Texans sit at the bottom of the AFC with a 1-5-1 record. Week 9's Monday Night Football game between the Baltimore Ravens and New Orleans Saints will be missing a pair of notable receivers. Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Rashad Bateman will miss the rest of the season due to a season-ending foot surgery, while Saints receiver Michael Thomas will be undergoing toe surgery that will likely end his season. The Ravens are currently 4th in the AFC with a 5-3 record, while the Saints have struggled in the first half of the season with a 3-5 record and are currently out of the NFC playoff picture. That's all for your 3 o'clock news update. I'm Parmveer Kang for 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
It's extremely important for people to stay healthy and to stay active as much as possible.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hi there, thanks for tuning in to For the Record. I'm Amelia Francis Fincham, and today's topic is the first call to action for truth and reconciliation, giving the control back to Indigenous people for child welfare services. On today's episode, we will be talking to Carrie-Anne Collinge, a Métis-born child protective mediator. Hi Carrie-Anne, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Carrie-Anne, can you explain to us why it is so important for Indigenous people to gain back the control of their own child welfare services right now?
The numerous benefits of this announcement for the future generations of Indigenous children is first and foremost to be reintroduced to their homelands, their culture, to start living in a less modern world and going back to their sacred principles and their teachings. I found so fascinating about the Truth and Reconciliation movement and the announcement that was made yesterday was it's the first number one agreement for the calls to action is child welfare, and it's refreshing to see that it's actually been called to action and that there's an incubation time and now we're into action.
You know, it's not rare for me to hear people say today that the Child Protective Services system is just another modern day version of the residential schooling system.
Absolutely, no, and they are on many levels, and they're still stitched with colonialistic ideas, and that's why we've got to marry the two. And we're taking the ancient spirit and the modern mind and the technologies of today, and together that's going to bring forward not only the spirit of collaboration, but of restitution and repair. And yet, how do you walk in a forgiving way when you're willing to do the work and the barriers are still put in place? You know, so I think the timing of it, yes, I mean, was it long overdue? Absolutely. But at the same time, it's now.
And as you said before, it is refreshing to see it finally happen.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even the provincial and federal government, they've got accountability factors in how this population has been treated. Highest number of Indigenous children in the care system. They're the highest population per race in incarceration, and yet in our country, in Canada, they don't even make up 10% of the population.
So, essentially, do you think there could be more that we could be doing for the child protective system? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who are still really skeptical and have responded by saying, you know, I'll believe it when I see it.
I think the wheels of justice move slowly. However, what I can tell you in my professional experience, in the last 4 months, I have been able to sit at the table and provide a safe space for families and ministry to explore alternative arrangements. And what's available right now, and it's new in our province, it's been active for over a year in Ontario, but it's new to the legislation of British Columbia, is a customary care agreement where that's allowing Indigenous children that have been removed for safety or well-being or who knows what concern, but they fall under the umbrella of child protection. And it's a non-invasive way where the children get placed with family and the nations get to say, we know that this family, these people will do right by this child, rather than the modern system of child protection, government-led, dictating. So the shift is happening, and I can speak to the fact that I've witnessed that it's in motion. We have actively been working on this for the last 6 months in the province of British Columbia, and it has impacted families in ways that I still haven't found words for, because it's all encompassing. It impacts them spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and even physically. Like, some of these families that I'm referring to have children in all age categories from 2 to 17. And just to be held by a family member and asked how their day is at school changes the way that the child grows and develops and shows up. It's so much more authentic and genuine when you know the person.
And that's really what it comes down to, isn't it?
Well, because there's that identity piece of knowing that you belong somewhere.
So, for all the children that are out there who don't believe that this is actually happening, what words would you choose to say to those people, to those children right now?
I realize that hope has been very minimal, and there hasn't been a lot to hold on to. But I've seen with my own eyes, and I've felt with my own heart, that this change is in action. I don't know when it's going to happen for you, but I know that it will, because it's not an if anymore. This action is being rolled out, and change is it's here, it's now. And a lot of us are celebrating in ways that, there's still no language. Mm-hmm. You know, you think, oh, it's restoration, oh, it's repair, oh, it's healing, oh, it's forgiveness, oh, it's action. I think it's all of those things, but it's covered in optimism and hope and a yearning for that acceptance and love, where finally the children are safe and they're coming home.
Wow. Carrie Ann, that was so powerful and so wonderful, and it is so impactful. So do you think that this impact now will carry on and throughout the rest of this country?
It is my hope that every community and every province in Canada and actually around the world would adopt this model. It is about less harm, less trauma, and prevention. Just imagine if we were to put the dollars that are spent in resource homes and keeping children in foster care into their families and into their communities, and providing workshops and family outings and a rec center and, complimentary passes that people can come to the swimming pool, and people have opportunity, because financially there's barriers for every race in our country. There's so many struggles that we didn't see in the 80s that we see now. And the social development has been actually positive since the 1980s. Child welfare has changed tremendously. Mm-hmm. In the 80s, it didn't matter. It was, no, we've got to remove. Where I can say in 2022, and even in 2020, it wasn't so much about removal. It was about prevention pieces. It was about, unless, of course, it was severe, then, of course, the child would have to be safe and be removed from the home. But it became more of a collaborative lens, where the ministry was showing up in a way that they had never shown up before.
And that is exactly what we need them to do right now. Well, Carrie Ann, we are running out of time for today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add for the listeners of For the Record? No, I don't think so. I mean, this conversation is organic, mm-hmm. and so is this movement. So there is no right way to do this. It's time to do it. And we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to grow and learn from them. But it will no longer be at the expense of the child and the family. It will be more of legislation having to
rewrite itself and not be so rigid, and to recognize that people don't live on one side or the other, right?
Yes, so true. Well, Carrie-Ann, it's been an absolute blessing talking to you today, and it is so nice to know that there is someone out there like you who is looking after the welfare of the children, who is making sure that they no longer have to feel this pain anymore.
Yeah, and isn't that the truth, right? Like, we all belong somewhere, and the pain's got to stop. And the only way that we're going to stop it is exactly, what John did with that announcement. He dropped a boulder in the ocean, and it's just going to ripple out, and there's going to be tremendous change, and it's going to be positive, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's change nonetheless, and it's long overdue. It's going to make such a positive difference, not only for this generation, but for the next.
Let's hope so. Okay, Carrie-Ann, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
And that's all from us for today. Thanks for tuning in to For the Record. I'm Amelia Francis Fincham, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
I dream a lot about the day that my family will arrive here in Victoria. And I just dream about showing them around, about this place that became my home. Looking back to that moment, I could not bear the fear in my mom's eyes. The sponsors are gonna be playing a big part in supporting my family after they arrive to Canada, to give them a sense of home and community.
So I went to a meeting with Tam and the sponsors at the Intercultural Society, and when I learned the amount of money that needed to be raised to bring his mom and his two sisters here, I was shocked. I was shocked, upset, thinking, why does it have to be so much?
We have formed a sponsorship group of 12 amazing individuals and supporters who reside here in Victoria on the island. And we work with ICA, who's a sponsorship agreement holder. They work in coordination with the Canadian government. And these organizations are giving number of seats every year to sponsor refugees. We're so lucky to get a seat finally after 5 years.
You know, his family is just at a risk. I have no idea how he manages each day with his mental health. It's actually amazing how he keeps it together.
He's such a hard worker. He's been working. I know that he's been not only doing that, but school on top of it and doing exams, and he blows my mind.
You know, we don't appreciate how good we have it here in Victoria. You know, we live in a very wealthy place, a very safe place, and now we know with Ukraine, like that was thought to be a safe place too, and now it's not safe. Syria was once thought to be a fairly stable, safe country to live in.
I just can't believe the circumstances they have to survive each day compared to even third world other countries that are out there. It's a whole different level of struggle in places like Syria.
We had met on Zoom last week, I think, with his two sisters and his mother, and they are really beautiful people, and they live in appalling conditions right now in Lebanon. They're illegal refugees. They're not allowed to work. They can barely put food on the table. They get by on what TAM can send them in terms of money.
There's been quite a few hard days where he just wants to chat with them, and until that moment happens, he has that fear in him of, like, are they still there? Are they still breathing? And that's a reality for him every hour, every day.
اوكي عادي. كيفكم صباحو؟ صباح الخير. هاي يا مامي. كيفك يا قلبي؟ اشتغلتم، كيفكم انتو؟ هاي ماما، كيفك؟ I left Syria, there was like an attack from all around the city, from different parties. And I wasn't sure if I would make it, you know, out of there alive or not. Around that time, like, it was really harsh. We had over like 40 missile attack on the city within like 2 weeks. So it was really bad.
Maybe you need a nap, just go nap. Like a snooze. Like a minute nap, snooze.
But also like you've done a lot, so and the mix. My mom taught me how to make Syrian bread. I used to just watch her make it every Friday or Thursday for the weekend.
So, what are you worried about? What are you worried about right now?
I want to just make sure everything lines up tomorrow morning.
You know, like the GoFundMe page, that's an online thing, and people, you know, can read the story and be inspired that way. But it's to put just the work of making the food and making the scarves and doing the art and people coming together and giving in this more concrete and creative way.
Are you excited for today?
Yes, it's finally happening. Been lots of planning and lots of preparation and just getting stuff done and lots of amazing friends and people helping. So I'm actually very excited. Not nervous at all, I would say. Just looking forward to just share my story with everyone. So we were just on our way to the souk. Like I had that feeling in my gut that don't go using that road. When I go, I felt strongly that we should use a different route to get there. And I was telling my mom, we're almost arguing in the street, no, I don't want to go there, let's take the other one. So I insisted. Not even a minute later, just hear a high pitch bombing. The buildings, the sky, the land felt like everything was shaking and everything was crumbling like a piece of paper. And people were screaming, blood everywhere. It was really scary. Didn't know if my sisters were home. We didn't know if they are still alive or not. And then we're running and back to our house to see what happened, if my sisters are okay or not. And the minutes felt like ages. Just lots of mix of emotions, happy. Feels like home actually, with all the people, the love, really good.
All three of my daughters will be here today at one point or another, either as artists or organizers, and we all live in the same city, and I see them frequently, and I just can't imagine being separated from my family as Tam is from his.
Who's never experienced any of these conflicts, how fortunate I am, and if there's some way I can help, it's nice to do so.
I knew it that home was no longer home. Maybe you can introduce you to one of our amazing artists, Hala, from Ukraine.
I have 3 pieces that I donated. One called Life of I have my whole entire family in Ukraine right now, and we lost 2 family members already, and so and being involved in Tam's fundraising, it takes, when you feel terrible, you need to focus on helping someone else, so your own pain will be less, right? So that's what I'm doing.
If I were in her situation and my son was across the world, I would be feeling, I think what she said, really concerned that he has people around him that would help him out. And that's what she said, when we saw it, we talked to her on the video, and she was just so happy to see all the good energy that was around him.
هذا الشعور إنه أم وبناتها وعندها ابن وحيد يعني هو حياتها. يعني هي اللحظة اللي إني أنا بدي أكون جنب ابني، هي عم بحلم فيها بشوفها بمنامي.
Well, something I really like that my mom wrote me, and it just like always was always and like still stuck in my mind to this day. And she's the first page in this book is my mom. Yeah, and I always, for some reason, whatever my mom's write, I always write myself here, like in Arabic, of course, that I hope my mom lives forever and ever. My loved mom. Like always, like, and I sign it. It's like here. So that's my mom, and then here I did a heart with, yeah. So anyway, what she says in here, that life is like a train, and people in each station, they come to, like, you have new people coming and new people leaving. Some people are gonna be good, some of them might not be good, and she's saying, I really hope that your like life, or like your train, your life train is like filled with love and success.
Sold out. Yeah, sold out. Gone.
And you know, I always think, like, especially with food, is like, food is love. So I hope people go now, like, after they go home, they, you know, get to enjoy a meal made by us. And it was lots of learning, you know, like a good start, more to come.
I think we all did amazing teamwork. I booked off 2 of my shifts from the hospital so I can be here. But yeah, we all sacrificed time, but it's worth it. We're trying to do something beautiful and amazing, all in good hope and faith for Tam's mom and 2 sisters. And it'll be incredible once it all falls through and they're here safely.
They're awesome. Like, sort of like, they're more inspiring than I even expected. Like, they're so bright and hopeful and laughing and smiling and just really enchanting people. And it made me think, oh my goodness, what is, especially as sisters, what are they going to do when they get here? I think they're going to just really do awesome things and really contribute here. So I look forward to meeting them.
We just saw my sisters. They were like, they had minor injuries, but we were like crying, all of us, and we held each other and just like grabbed into them. Like it felt like we've lost them, and then we've got them back. That day I will never forget. Yeah, I will never forget that day.
We are Being Gears.
That's cool.
Fashion is the foundation of being gears, but I think it's also like one of the greatest factors that will even start discussion about being gears.
What makes this group so special is because like they have their own identity, you know what I mean? Everybody has their own personal styles. they have their own special talents and their own creative endeavors. And I don't know, we're like the Avengers, dog.
Yeah, we're.
Who's who?
I'm like.
Black Widow.
I'm like Thor because I'm the strongest, and one of my biggest wishes is to work with a bunch of little gears so we can change a big group of gears and even affect the bigger gears out there.
All of us are so individually different that we fill gaps in all of us. So I feel like in that aspect, we're flawless. When we're having meetings, some of us are thinking so forward, and then you got other people like just grounding us a little bit. And even in just like the whole dynamic is flawless in that aspect. The lookbook's gonna be a showcase and also just an opportunity for us to get into the studio way more often. It's a very good starting ground for us to build our own portfolios and show people what we're capable of.
Yeah, something like this, I would say is pretty good for tote bag.
Yeah.
Like, it's not stretchy, it's sturdy. Fashion actually like brings out a character in you. You know, like when you're feeling good, when you're feeling fresh, you act totally different.
No Sharingan. It says Sharingan. What do you mean Sharingan?
Like my full name is like Nicholas. I never tell people I never introduce myself as that.
The most fulfilling thing that I can imagine out of gears is seeing other people form their own little groups because of us and just doing things. Like imagine some kids in middle school, high school being inspired to do the same things, even if they don't go anywhere with it. But to start it and just even think about it is super fulfilling.
I think we should all just be looking for ways to make money and get grants, get this. If we can get a $2,000 scholarship.
It just all goes back to the point of like looking good and feeling good, man.
It's as simple
you know,
as that.
It really is, man.
So 100%.
You know, if we can be like the poster childs for that, to try to promote, that as much as we can.
So how are we gonna draw it though?
Fashion and music, there's like that culture, the culture aspect of it, it all comes together through music, through art, through clothing. It just, it's very cohesive in that aspect and it's all a part of it.
We gotta draw one for the first two items.
Okay, can we look at a calendar? Amazing.
I think video games for sure, because I used to be a big gamer. Now I have no time, but I used to be a big gamer, and I feel like the way that they build their character design is just through the roof. Like they make something that's out of this world, and I'm like, how can I take that and make it real life? I love Naruto. Just the silhouettes that they carry. It's like very, very, it's like drapey. Still kind of on that like Asian, like the kimono type, like squared off sleeves, squared off hems, and cropped and like that type of thing. That was one of my big inspirations before. So I used to always wear like hella crop stuff. Can I say that? Crop stuff and like crop pants and like oversized sweaters and stuff like that used to be my thing. And yeah, now it's just, I don't know. Now it's just anime all over, really.
Keep it straight so you see it's lined up. Keep it straight so it's lined up. Just from the positiveness, the light, the colors, everything. I think it's great, and that's what continued to inspire me.
We out here
in the zoo cougar.
You know, this like motto of like looking good and feeling good, I feel like that's something you can live by.
Like, I feel like people always limit themselves in the ideas that they want to do and they never really pursue it. But if we can show that and like, hey, it's getting done by a bunch of kids, yo, that's community right there. You feel attachment to that. Anyone else can do this, but they're not. Who else is gonna do it with our positive attitudes? Who else is gonna do it with this welcoming? Who else? Who else but us? So I feel like this is always driving me because I'm just like, I wanna be that person that can connect.
Well, we see huge potential in Vancouver, and You know, it's devastating to see the potential just to stay as potential and not coming out as something, you know, like legit.
No one else is gonna do it in Vancouver, then it's gonna be us, right? Like anybody can do it. No one's done it.
The fact that we are so young, it's like hard for people to take like us seriously. You know what I mean? Especially like starting out, because we have content, but not a lot of it. You know, we just got to be about our stuff and push as much dope things as we can to show people that even young people can do it too.
We are gonna probably run into conflict with each other, just through like individually or even as a group, because there's no level of like hierarchy and everything is very flat in that sense. It's bound to create conflict, right? When Gray met Alex and Kathy last summer, Gray had a bad impression of them. I think Gray, if I recall correctly, just confronted them, told them like, I didn't like what you said. I want to know what you meant by it. They just figured it out and they confronted everything with each other. And then now they're here, they're super tight. They just confronted everything with each other. And I think realized that like, the value of their friendship then, after confronting things with each other, is great. So to start off on that note is really strong. In the case of like mental health, I think you do have to give time. That's really important. But we also can't leave anybody just rotting alone by themselves, right? None of us are mental health professionals or anything. We're just friends trying to help each other, regardless if it's for gears or not. Our first lookbook, we were going to style each other. It was just going to be us. We had due dates like this week. I was supposed to come in telling them my prompts about how I want to be styled and things, but we pushed all those dates indefinitely until everything's great.
Are you optimistic about the future? Do you think he's going to figure it out and everything's going to go back to schedule? Like, tell me how you feel about the future.
No, I think even when we did our other initial interview as a group on the couch, we even said, like, we know things are going to come up. We know things are going to happen. We're going to have conflicts with each other. And I still expect for all those things to happen. But do I feel confident about it? Yes, it is going to be okay. I strongly believe in that too. If we just work at it, there's nothing that like cannot be done.
Wednesday morning, busy Tuesday, so lots of prep, a lot of fries. This is, what do we got here? 300 pounds of potatoes, I guess. My business partner and I, training for Ironman and, had this love of food and fries and poutine and ended up coming up with this concept. I was on SkyTrain with one of my young sons going downtown for an event of some kind and hadn't been on SkyTrain in years and came through the New West station and saw this development and I was like, oh, there's a spot right there. Alright, so gaucho bread, buttered chicken sauce. I won't do that. Usually this stuff I'll work on while I'm doing my openings and around and see what else needs to be done. And then we open. And then we keep prepping. We keep doing stuff.
Could you just talk about the struggles that are facing Spud Shack right now? Gee, where to start?
So now we're 9.5 years, I guess, almost been open. Just coming up on hopefully a 10-year renewal on our lease, and there you go. Half hour ago, this place was packed, and everyone's happy, and they're enjoying their food, and the music's on, and the energy is amazing. That is such a high, and I think that's why I do it, and I think that's why we've been successful.
I'm very methodical. I do everything the exact same way every single day that I do this.
So I reached out to the leasing agent, Matt. I would imagine, it's, they've got all that figured out. They already know our lease is coming up. So we'll see what they present. In a perfect world, it would be seamless. Saying that I had missed my 6-month notice to inform them for the renewal, which I had no idea I had to do that. I missed it by a week. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm nervous. I'm very positive about the business and the concept. It's been 9 years. We've had year-over-year growth.
Yes, it's hot. My fingers are used to it.
Obviously, COVID hasn't helped, but we have a strong presence. We're well respected. So in that regard, I feel great. What do I do if I don't sign the lease? If I don't renew the lease, do we just pack it in, walk away, and cut our losses? Or do we hustle and find another space and basically start over again?
It's sort of the magic, right? Just repetition. They say it takes, 40,000 times doing something to master it. So we sell 60,000 plus boutiques a year. So hopefully we're on the right track in doing it right. But this is what matters the most. Friday, Saturdays. We know we're in an extra busy weekend coming up.
The last couple of years has been COVID. Can you talk about how that's kind of affected the business?
Yeah, well, there's no question it's had a major impact. We were closed for 3 months, so you want to talk about a low, I would say by the end of March, we had been closed almost 2 weeks. We didn't know if and when we were going to reopen, if we were just even going to survive being closed for a couple months. 2019 was our busiest year. We had done some awesome numbers. Our projections for 2020 were going to be through the roof. We were going to hit some personal milestones and benchmarks that I had set for the restaurant of where I figured we needed to be for expansion and growth. And we were there, and we were going to hit it, and then we were kind of punched in the gut. So now we got to figure out how do we get back to there. I think food and the quality and the systems are all still there. Now we just need to find the labor and the staff and the right people that bring us back, get us back to our hours that we need to be, where we can be open and to get back to those numbers. COVID hopefully is in the rearview mirror-ish. Our lease is on the horizon. That looks like, hopefully we're going to get through that coming up to summer. So we're going to have hopefully some nice warm weather and a nice summer. And then we can really start looking forward to the future. So I think it looks great.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio,
You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.